So why does it even matter who you pick for your mortgage? Like, what does that make a difference? And so often you're probably going to see on social media, people talking about negatively potentially about a different financial institution or lending institution, or they'll be poking fun, maybe some real estate agents, things like that. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about why does it even matter? Because most people who are getting mortgages, what they really think makes a difference and what matters is the actual interest rate, right? Because the bigger players in the game in mortgage have spent millions of dollars in advertising to get you to believe that the only thing that matters when it comes to securing a mortgage is going to be that interest rate. And albeit the interest rate is important and you definitely shouldn't discount it by any means, because it does definitely matter, the thing that you really need to know and understand is that it's so much more than that when it comes to picking somebody who is going to help you do your mortgage. Okay. So let's talk from a lending perspective of why it matters for your lender to matter. So, first of all, understand that not every lender is created equal. There are several different kinds of lenders, and they all hold a place at the table for very, very different reasons. So, for instance, a lot of people naturally think the very first thing that pops into their mind when it comes to doing financing is to just go to their bank. But it's important for you to remember that the bank's primary goal is not mortgage. That's not their primary function. So, although sometimes they have a fine process, there's nothing necessarily wrong with going to your bank to do the loan. They often have what's called overlay, meaning they're more strict on what they will or will not do when it comes to actually purchasing, allowing a purchase or refinance of a home. They also can change a lot more quickly. And what do I mean by that? Well, I'll give you an example. During COVID, so in 2020, one of the larger banks in the nation, they went ahead and they said if you did not have the loan already closed in their pipeline, they stopped doing mortgages altogether. So if you had been 2 weeks in the process and then all of a sudden they decided they're not going to do loans anymore, you're kind of up a creek without a paddle, right? And so there definitely can have problems no matter what kind of lending institution you pick. So do not misunderstand me. I just need you to understand that the bank's not always your highest and best choice unless you are somebody who's like maybe super squeaky clean and you know that your file's not going to have any hair on it. Okay. And you're saying to yourself, what the heck do you mean hair on it? So anything that could potentially complicate the file. And even though you personally may not have anything that could complicate your file, aka you have got great credit, your income is super solid, you have lots of money in your bank accounts, all of these things, right? Which is great. The challenge might be the wrench may come from another place. So the challenge might be the property you're looking to purchase. So there could be something funky and weird that pops up, be it on the title, or it could be maybe the way that the seller handles it, whatever. There could be a lot of different little nuance. And because of that, the bank could potentially decide that they're just really not comfortable. So if you're not really pretty cookie cutter, a bank may be a little bit of a hard lending institution to go with. Again, no knock on the bank. I have worked for banks, multiple different kinds, credit unions, regular banks, all of that in the course of my career. But just understand that that is sometimes a little bit different. The other thing is that you can go with a large lending institution, but if you are calling into them and you're reaching a call center, sometimes those people may or may not be, they may not have been in the lending space for a super long time. It's not to say that, those people may not have been in the space for a really long time. And that's just to say that somebody who's new in the industry doesn't know what they're talking about. They may have a super solid team standing behind them that has a really good understanding. But when you are in a call center environment, which is another thing that I have done in the course of my career, oftentimes you are dealing with a lot of volume, a lot of files. And so you don't necessarily know exactly what's going on with every single deal. It definitely can be a challenge to follow up. And they do tend to be the newer people to the industry. So they may not just have as much experience and expertise dealing with some of the little weird nuances that sometimes does pop up in our space. The other challenge that you can run into is that not every lending institution holds every kind of product. So there are a lot of different lending institutions that pick and choose the kind of products that they bring in the door. They're all going to pretty much mostly carry the major ones. So That's going to be like FHA, VA, conventional loans, things like that. However, they're not all necessarily going to do USDA, which is going to be, some of your more rural stuff. They won't necessarily all do non-QM. That's going to be people who need special, kind of things, like if you are heavily cash based, right? So maybe you need a bank statement loan. Maybe you need different kind of loan programs called like asset depletion. There's like a whole bunch of wide range of products that a lot of times some lending institutions are not going to offer where others are. So that's going to be a major factor when it comes. The other thing is the ability to pivot. And I talk about this a lot for us specifically because at PBJ Mortgage, we are really, really good at what we do. We actually save a lot of deals often. And I probably don't always do the best job of really expressing how and why we're so good at what we do. The reason that we came up with the name PBJ Mortgage, making mortgage simple, as simple as making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, why we did that is because the objective here is if you will simply follow the recipe style steps we provide you, we are going to then give you some education surrounding why certain things matter, give you a few really well-aligned choices with what you're actually looking for, and then we're going to do all the hard work on the back end so you never have to see it. And if there's challenges and there's problems, unless we have to involve you, we don't. And I'm going to repeat that. Unless we have to involve you in problems, we don't. A lot of people who do not understand the industry super, super well and how to pivot super, super quickly, they will involve everybody and their brother in those challenges, and it makes for a very frustrating experience. And so there are a lot of great lenders out there. We are not the only amazing lender, but part of the reason we are so good is that if some weird thing pops up, and I will tell you, I've been in lending a long, long time, over 20 years. I've been in the industry. So many weird, nuanced situations that you think, what the heck? What is this even? They pop up over and over and over again. I actually talk about them in my book. I give so many stories and so many examples of just weird stuff that popped up over the course of time. Sometimes it's one problem, sometimes it's like 10 problems. And the last thing you want to be doing as a consumer, the last thing is having to worry about that. Your job is simply to trust us to do our jobs, that you provide us the things that we need in an orderly fashion. You give us the information appropriately, right? The accurate picture. And then we take that and we run with it on the back end and we facilitate it. The other reason that lending is so, so important is we're sort of the central point for all of the rest of this house buying process, right? Your realtor is super, super important because they are helping you figure out what house to buy, what area. They're helping you in the negotiation on getting, that deal kind of solidified. But once the contract is in place and you guys have done those inspections, kind of figured out if everything's good, you're good with everything, now the lender is sort of controlling the rest of the process. We're ensuring that everything is being met, that all of the dates, and that all of the other parties in the transaction, all of them, and there is a lot of parties. If you're not aware, there is appraisers, there is the seller, there's you as the buyer, there is the real estate agent for the buyer, the real estate agent for the seller, there's the title company. Sometimes there's a surveyor if there's a survey that has to be done, right? You often have the other mortgage company. If there's a mortgage on the property that's existing that has to be pulled and to get paid off at the transaction, right? So you have all of these people. And then on like the mortgage side, we've got processors and underwriters. We have ourselves. We have all of these people, right, that are involved in this one transaction. And we are sort of the circus leader, if you will, that's standing in the center of the ring herding cats. And it is definitely a challenge at times because sometimes people are not great at communication. Sometimes people are not doing things in a timely manner. And we have to be that driver of the bus to push and push and push. And so when people come to me and they're like, oh my gosh, this person, this other lender is $500 cheaper in overall fees than you are, or whatever the case may be, because we're incredibly competitive. But sometimes people beat us out by a little bit of money. What I need people to understand is how much easier is the lender going to make your life? Because that does matter. your mental health through this process, they have done all kinds of studies. It is statistically one of the most stressful experiences you go through. It's literally where my company was born from and born out of, is because I was like, look, there has to be a better way. Like, people shouldn't be struggling to one, understand what the heck they're even doing. There should be clear, transparent education, which is why I do all of this. I do all the videos. I have a podcast and all these things. I want people to have great information. Freaking heck, I wrote a book. Why did I do that? Because I wanted people to understand. I needed them to know what the heck was going on with their process, what the red flags look like, what they should be raising their hand on, right? And then also, I wanted the process to go as smoothly as possible. That when the wrenches were thrown, when the frustration arose, it was our problem, not yours. And so if you are dealing with somebody who really is in your corner and really cares about you and really wants what's best for you, we hold that back from you. And so just understand that that's one of the really, really big pieces that's super, super important. There's another huge component. So if you're watching these videos, you're probably trying to educate yourself, right? About how the process works, what it looks like, why does this matter? Why are we doing this? All of those things. Totally understand, totally get it. A lot of times the consumer, you listening to this, believe that you understand and you know what kind of loan product, what kind of loan program is going to be the best fit for you. I'm just going to be very transparent. You probably don't necessarily know exactly what, and if you have an idea, you may only be partially right, okay? And I'm going to give you a couple examples. So we sometimes have people come to us and they say to us, well, I want to do an FHA loan. I'm like, great. We do FHA loans. Why? Why do you want to do an FHA loan? And basically what they tell me is that everything they've heard and seen tells them that FHA is a first-time home buyer loan product, and that's why they want to do it. Great. And FHA does cater to a lot of first-time home buyers, but people use it even after first-time home buying, and it is a great product, but not for everybody. For instance, in the state of Texas, where I live, we are a community property state. If we do an FHA loan and one person is going to be excluded from the loan, a spouse is going to be excluded from the loan for whatever the reason may be. Maybe they don't earn any money. Maybe they have horrible credit. There could be tons of different reasons. We have to count all of that person's debt towards the debt to income ratio for the whole entire transaction. Okay. And so that may not be the best loan product in that case. There may be other options. It might still be the best loan product. I don't know. But each person is so unique, and you want to be treated with your uniqueness when we are looking at your loan. This is a huge financial transaction. This is not something that, hey, in a year or two, you're going to pay it off or something like that, right? Like, you need to understand. Not only that, it is literally our job to not only see what you submitted, hear what you have to say about what it is you want and what your life looks like, but also potentially to push back on you on what it is that matters and why it matters, to give you some perspective. So it's not our job to make the decisions for you. We are very clear about that at PBJ Mortgage. I want to equip you with information, and I want to empower you to make that choice. You should be the one that makes the decision. And just so you know, if your loan officer is pushing you one way or the other and not empowering you to make the choice, they don't want to explain to you, they just want to choose for you, that's not a good look. It's not. They should be empowering you to make the choice. Because guess what, baby? I don't stroke that check every month. You do. And I want to make sure you're good with it. But it is my job to make sure that you are set up for success, that we have looked over it, that we have given you good information so you can make well-informed decisions. Because I can't tell you how much it hurts my heart to hear, well, we went with this company because it was a little bit better rate or whatever, and this is the loan that we chose, and I didn't really understand that this is how this worked. Or why didn't somebody tell me that this is what happened? And one of the stories that I tell all the time is, so when I was I wasn't new in lending. I guess I've been in it for about 7 years or so at this point. And I work for a company, and they asked me to train a new LO. And I overheard him talking to a client, and she wanted to do a FHA loan. And I'm listening to the conversation and I'm hearing how great her credit is, and I'm hearing how much money she has and how much money she wants to put down, and I'm like, an FHA loan is not likely the highest and best use for her. But this new LO was going to give her that loan because that's what the client wanted and understood. And if you want a certain kind of product or program and you qualify for it, and I advise you and you still want it, I'm going to give you what you want. This is America, baby. You've got the freedom to make whatever choice you want. What I want for you is an intentional, educated choice. So if you make the choice intentionally and you make it educated, that's good enough for me. Even if I don't agree with your choice, I will absolutely do that loan for you. Okay. And so I asked him to step out of the meeting with her for a second, and I had a conversation with them, and I was like, why is it that she wants an FHA loan? And he's like, well, it's a first time homebuyer loan. And I said, well, it is, but it's not just for first time homebuyers, and there are better products, especially for her situation. And he's like, well, what do you mean? And then I started walking him through it. And I started explaining to him the different pieces of the puzzle and why this other loan product, conventional loan, made more sense for her unique situation and what the pros and the cons of the different products were so that the best choice and decision could be made. That's what a really great lender will do for you. So if you want to know, is it worth, potentially paying a tiny bit more an interest rate to have somebody who's completely in your corner and completely understands what the situation is and knows their products and knows their guidelines and has lots of different choices and options, that's why it matters for your lender to matter. That's why we are such an important piece of the puzzle. And so I can't stress enough that when you are looking to make the decision of who you want to use and utilize, please pick somebody where they really are going the full length to make sure that you feel totally empowered in your decision with this very large financial transaction. It's so important. It's so important. And if we do our jobs well, it doesn't have to be scary or difficult. Now, you can make it scary and difficult if you want to fight us at every turn and you want to tell us that that's not something we need or whatever. I'm going to be real with you. When customers are constantly fighting with me and telling me what I do and don't want, especially when I've been doing it as long as I can and I have the level of expertise that myself and my team hold, I'm like, maybe I am not the lender for you. Because if you're going to fight back at everything I have to provide, let me just be very clear about something. What I am not doing is going home at night and propping up my laptop and perusing your documents to see how much money you're spending at Starbucks or Target or wherever the heck you like to spend money. I don't care. The only reason that we're asking you for the documents that we're asking you for is because we need them to be able to prove to the underwriter that you can buy this house or refinance this house. That's all we really care about. That's it. And so when you're fighting us, it's just making the process more difficult. It's just making everything more difficult. So I felt really firmly because I feel like I get asked a lot. And I feel like sometimes people are only looking very narrowly focused on the interest rate, and that's the only thing that they're focusing on. And I'm not telling you that interest rate's not important. I mean, I tell people all the time, we're incredibly competitive. We really are. But somebody might beat me out a little bit, right? I mean, we may not always have the exact lowest rate ever. What we are going to always have is very, very competitive rates. We are going to fight like heck for our customers. We're going to make sure the process goes as smooth as peanut butter on that bread, right? Like that's what we're going to do. And we're going to make sure we set you up for success. We actually have a product, and this is free to anybody who wants access to it. It is actually, you can find it in our YouTube channel. There's a link to it and you can sign up. It actually will help you understand exactly what your picture is right now. So it'll help you understand where your credit's at. It'll help you understand how much money you have saved, what your picture looks like. So if you're not ready to have that scary conversation yet with a mortgage person, you feel like you're a little ways out, here's a good way to just really get a gut check for us to be able to help you understand from an education side what that looks like. It's called Key Steps, and you definitely can have access to it. So check it out. But hopefully this is kind of helpful to give you a high-level view of why the mortgage aspect actually really, really matters and why it's so important that you're being diligent in your selection with that. And my team and I would be so, so happy and so, so honored if you want to give us the opportunity to take a look at what you're looking to try to do and educate you. And we will provide you more resources than you can imagine. And if you don't want them and you just want to trust us, that's okay too. We'll educate you on the big rocks, the things you need to know, and we'll move from there. And so I appreciate you taking the time to watch this. And hopefully, you'll watch more of my videos that give you even more information all about financials and mortgage and all of those things.